Right, really enjoyed this question for week 10 discussion about critical thinking examples, especially on how to show an employer that you have mastered this skill. I don't know if I've mastered it, um, far from it, but I certainly do have some examples in my academic career. I've got some examples in my um, employment career, but most importantly, I do have some examples um, in the field that I'm actually trying to get into the master's programs and the career for and everything, which is occupational therapy, which would mostly entitle for what I'm kind of looking for is working with kids with developmental disabilities. Um, So, like I said, or I've previously mentioned in our discussions before, I've worked in the field on and off for 10, 15 years or so. Um, and there's definitely some things that came to mind. But just to kind of keep it sort of broad, I will say Um, back when I was attending the University of Illinois at Chicago, we had to write an essay and um, do a pseudo experiment, I guess I would call it. It certainly wasn't like lab tested or peer reviewed or anything like that. Um, so that was in a neurobiology class, um, just about the chemicals in the brain and how they react to one another and etc. And the professor of that class ended up calling me in for it, and we kind of talked about it, and she wanted me to submit it um, to some grant. This was like 6 years ago, so I don't remember a whole lot about it. I didn't do it at the time. So there's really not a whole lot to show for that one, so I definitely won't be using that example probably. Um, but the one that definitely came to mind was when I was a caretaker for a kid, a 12-year-old boy with developmental disabilities. He had Down syndrome and autism and was pretty severely limited because of it. Mostly so as he was not verbal and he really struggled with just communication in general. And at some point, while I was his caretaker, he just really started acting out with the family when I wasn't there. Um, and it was really just taking everybody a really long time to figure it out. And frankly, the information didn't get to me that he'd been acting out when I wasn't there until much later than it probably should have. And eventually they kind of came to me and, said so and so is doing this and that, and it's really causing issues. Do you have any idea why this would be happening? And for a couple days, I kind of was just trying to figure out what would be going differently. I kind of stayed with the family after uh, they would get home for work and everything, and my caretaking duties would usually be done with. And um, what it really was is he had two sisters in high school, and one of them was getting ready to leave and was doing a lot of packing and moving and stuff like that. And they just didn't pick up on it, I guess. They'd had another sister that had done it and hadn't had any issues with it. I think he was just more attached to her. Um, and he knew that, she was moving out just like his other sister did, and he was just not understanding why people were leaving him, I guess, and just acting out from it. And we were able to kind of communicate to him, kind of work things out, kind of get a day-to-day interaction with her and something kind of set up for the future. I don't want to get too specific about everything. Um, but that would definitely be what I would use for it. What I would like to put on the actual website is some kind of testimony or kind of interview, I guess, with the parents of the kid I was a caretaker for, um, and not myself saying like, "Here, this is what I did." I'd like to get a just like an excerpt, maybe not even a video or anything like that, just of them kind of saying, "Hey, this is the problem that we had while Andrew was working for us, and this is how it was settled." And I think he did a good job doing so. So I think that would look good on the website.